This is Rewriting Ragnarok Part 5. Welcome to the 5th installment of the God of War Ragnarok Rewrite series, where I alter the story and the gameplay into the ultimate what-if scenario. If you remember in Part 1, I separated Ragnarok into 2 separate games so we can have more content, and Part 5 marks the halfway point of the first game, meaning we got 5 more parts until Ragnarok Part 1 is concluded. But other than that, I'm not going to waste no time here. We got a lot to cover, so I just want to say thank you for the support so far. If you somehow watching this and didn't watch the previous parts, go do that, and let us begin. Starting off with a couple of gameplay changes. It's not going to be much in this part, but I will be adding another option to the Frost Awaken. Instead of pressing R2 to do a different move, you can hold R2 and it activates Glaive Storm just to add more runic attacks to his moveset. As you know, air combos have been added to the rewrite, so enemies can be stunned while in the air, allowing you to press R3 to do air finishers. There's going to be 2 versions for the axe and 2 versions for the blades. Starting with the axe, you have an alternative version of Serpent Snare, where he throws the enemy onto the ground onto other enemies. The other one is when Kratos grabs an enemy with the axe and uses his wings to rise even higher in the air just to slam them to the ground. For the blades, the first one will be Kratos stabbing his blades into the enemy, igniting their bodies from the inside, causing them to explode in flames, and for Kratos to pass through them while in the air. The second one will be Kratos using his left blade to slice an enemy in half, sending the upper half flying, and then Kratos will grapple the upper half of the torso with his right blade, igniting it with a blazing explosion. Spartan Fury has air combos. If any enemy is in the air, Kratos will jump to unleash on enemies while in the air without his wings. Press and circle uppercut small enemies into the air, and R2 smashes them back into the ground. That will have to do it for the gameplay sections. Let's get on to the story. Previously, on Part 4, Kratos saved Atreus from the hands of Freya and Vanaheim, but not in the way that he wanted it to be. We start off with Kratos, Atreus, and Mimir walking in the realm between realms. No words are spoken. Kratos is still covered in Freya's blood. They walk through the door and reach Sindri's house. On the opposite end of where Ratatoskr lies, you can see Tyr doing something at the edge of the land, holding a strange device, but then stops when he sees everyone returning home. He is surprised to see Kratos' condition and tries to ask him what happened, but Kratos ignores him. They walk into Sindri's house to see Brock already there. Brock was in the middle of telling Sindri everything that just happened. Sindri at first denies all of this until he sees Kratos walk inside. His condition says it all. Kratos puts Mimir on a table as Sindri asks Atreus if he's okay. Sindri then asks all of them if Freya is really dead. Mimir will then say, "She was relentless. We tried to get away from her, but she wouldn't let up." Atreus will then say, "Well, we don't know. When we left, she was still alive. What's stopping her from healing?" Mimir will then respond saying, "She didn't want to heal, lad." There is a moment of silence until Sindri asks, "So, what are we doing here now?" Atreus looks at everyone, takes a breath, and hesitates to say, "I think we should keep going." Everyone looks at Atreus like he's crazy, except for Kratos, who's currently in his own head. Atreus continues, "The truth is, everywhere we go, it still isn't safe. Everything that has happened is all because of Odin. We have to be one step ahead of him." Sindri responds, "Are you forgetting that you almost died twice now?" Atreus then says, "But I didn't, and I won't." Tyr will then butt in saying, "I don't think a war is the answer to the safety you seek." Atreus replies, "Maybe it won't have to go there. There are answers out there we are missing, ones that we are so close to finding, and I think I have an idea." Atreus looks towards Kratos to ask for his consent. Kratos looks at Atreus and says, "No, be ready in the morning. We'll be going home." Atreus responds, "But we..." Kratos cuts him off and stares straight at him. "We are done. It is over." Atreus will respond, I don't get it. You want to go back home where Odin can easily find us. Why can't we just continue?" Kratos responds, "Every moment we continue, you are put in danger." Atreus replies, "We are in danger anyway. I know that Freya is bothering you, but for now we have to close our hearts to it for the bigger picture." Kratos responds in a stronger tone, "That only took place because you went out to Midgard alone. You still haven't told me why you were there. Was it to see Odin? Atreus answers, What? No! It was to find Freya, to get her on our side. Mimir steps in, But then you were attacked. Then Atreus will respond, And I survived. On my own. I know how to handle myself. Sindri cuts in, Like how you handled Freya? I could've. She was listening to what I had to say. She wasn't gonna hurt me. She was gonna join us. Until she saw you. You would blame me for saving your life. I blame you for never trusting me with my future and my life. If you want me to trust, then why do you hide your intent? Because you're being a complete asshole. This conversation will transition into their argument that they had before Atreus runs off to Asgard, except Freya will not be there for obvious reasons. The scene will end the same, with Atreus losing control and turning into a bear and attacking Sindri. The difference will be when Atreus bursts through the gateway, the camera will not follow him. It will follow Kratos instead, chasing after him. Kratos will use the stone to go to Midgard, trying to see if he could catch Atreus before he meets Odin. Kratos transports to their home, yells out to Atreus, but he doesn't see him anywhere. He runs towards and past the gate of the dogs, trying to see if he sees him anywhere in the woods. Kratos will hear growling to the side of him, and quickly raise his shield as a black wolf with purple eyes tries to pounce on him. Kratos easily deflects this, sending him into a tree. The wolf transforms into his human form, rushing at Kratos even faster than before, throwing a punch. Kratos is only able to react by grabbing his arm as he becomes face to face with Vali for the first time. Vali smiles at Kratos and says, I found you. Without Vali making any sudden movements, Kratos receives an invisible blow to the stomach, sending him into multiple trees, which Kratos blocks the impact of breaking these trees with his shield. Vali pounces from tree to tree like an animal to catch up to the flying Kratos. A quick time event will appear where you will have to press circle to stop Vali from hitting you. Kratos will grab Vali's arm and slam him into the ground. Vali will then do a roll to the ground and land on his feet. Vali will then speak again. You see, I don't get how you two are related. Kratos will then yell impatiently, saying, Move out of my way! Kratos will charge at him, only to get punched in the face by another invisible blow, which sends him to the floor. Vali walks up to Kratos as he gets up, holding an engraved spearhead. He continues to talk. You look nothing alike. Kratos goes for another punch, but Vali slashes him with the spearhead before it lands, and kicks him a few meters back. He speaks again. And you actually have the strength of a god. That boy, I almost mistook him for a mortal. Kratos throws his axe towards Vali, but he catches the axe and throws it right back at him. Kratos gets pinned to a tree by his own axe. He returns the axe to his hand, but then is pinned back by an invisible object stabbing him in the chest. Vali casually walks up and says, Oh yeah, I forgot. You don't know why I'm here. Well, Thor lied. Your blood debt is not paid at all, even though you look like you've been paying another one. But you owe a lot more. But there's good news. Your son can help. So first, I'll collect it from him, and then I'll come back for you. Kratos activates Spartan Rage, which blows Vali a few meters back. Vali begins to have a purple aura around him, and his body begins to dissolve. Kratos breaks out of whatever was pinning him, charging at Vali, as Vali only says, Now I see the resemblance. Vali's entire body dissolves, and Kratos ends up punching the air. Vali is gone. Kratos looks around and sees a snowstorm has appeared. Kratos, now injured, walks into the windy, snowy mist until you can't see him anymore, and it will transition to Atreus walking out of the mist, looking for someplace warm. Everything involving the runaway mission with Atreus will be the same. Atreus will make it to Freya's house, where he will reunite with Charlie and light a fire inside, where Odin's raven will appear and transport Atreus to the realm of Asgard. Atreus will be transported into the sky, where he will fall straight onto the Great Bifrost Bridge. He gets up to see the bridge connected to the plains of Ida, and further you can see the wall of Asgard. Atreus runs across the Bifrost Bridge and will notice how similar it feels to a bridge made of Alfheim light. Other than that detail, this level will be the same. Atreus will reach New Midgard and will meet Skildir for the first time. Skilder will tell Atreus all about how the wall is not welcome to anyone who isn't an Aesir god, and how Odin saved all of them from Fimbulwinter. He will be interested when Atreus tells him that he has magic and he's Odin's apprentice, and when Atreus decides to go climb the wall, he will be interrupted once again by a grown-looking woman on a horse running from the direction of the wall. She almost hits Atreus with her horse as she stops on the wooden bridge they're on. Skilder yells at the woman saying that you almost could have killed him, and she replies saying, "Sorry, I didn't see you there, Skilder. Who is this you're with?" Skilder will tell the woman that this is Loki and that he just met him, and then he will tell Atreus that this is his big cousin named Gefjun, and she's been exploring the realm ever since they got there. They continue to tell Atreus that she explores because she's trying to make a map of every realm that she visits, and she's been trying to get over the wall to see what Asgard looks like to finish her map here. Atreus thinks this is cool, and he promises them when he gets past the wall, he'll come back to tell them what it looks like. Gefjun will say her thanks and say her goodbyes as she uses her horse to ride away to explore Asgard even further. Atreus continues to the wall, followed by Skilder. The wall climbing section with Atreus will be mostly the same, but I will be changing the climbing slightly. There will be certain parts where rocks break apart and Atreus will lose his grip, but instead of him automatically regaining it, there will be a random button command to press in order to do so. When he jumps onto another climbing area, he will sometimes lose his grip and there will be a button command. If you fail, Atreus will fall and a screen will cut to black. But for the most part, things are the same. After that, Heimdall will meet Atreus at the top of the wall, help him up, begins to insult his entire character. He brings him to the Great Lodge, only to further embarrass you until Thor tells him to stop and he tells Thor to take a shower. Odin will show up and tell both of them to piss off. Odin will show you around Asgard as usual. You will see Hrist, Mist, and Gná. Right after he gives the Ainjar his blessing, they will turn around and hear screaming as 3 Ainjar are sent flying over the fences. They will hear a loud voice say, "You cannot fuck with a god!" Atreus and Odin will see a drunk warrior approach them. He will have short red hair with a full red beard, a cone-shaped helmet, chainmail armor with a flowing red cape, and a battle skirt. He will be holding mead while stumbling around drunk. Odin will then say, "They, what are you doing?" They will respond saying, "Training!" He will then spit on the ground and stumble closer to the fence. He looks at Atreus and asks Odin, "Who's the new pet?" Odin will then respond, "This is my new associate, and you can't train the soldiers properly while drinking piss." They will respond, "You insult my adventures again, and I will start Ragnarok right now." Right after he says that, an Ainjar will come and tackle him off the fence, and they will both fall down yelling. Atreus will ask Odin if that's his brother, and he will say, "Unfortunately," and then they will move on to the next stop. Odin and Atreus teleport back to the lodge, and once they do, a large black wolf with purple eyes will come and walk up to Atreus. Atreus will yell frightened and back up and pull out his bow. The wolf does not respond in any way and just stares. Atreus will look at the wolf and become slightly confused because he will realize that this wolf is missing a leg and is replaced with a prosthetic one. Odin calms Atreus by saying, "Whoa, there's no need for that. He's not going to hurt you. You're safe." Odin will then turn to the wolf, which still has no emotion, and will say, Vidar, do you mind? You're scaring our guests." Atreus slowly lays down his bow as Vidar transforms into his human form. Vidar will have the appearance of a shirtless man with long blonde flowing locks. He's the same height as Thor but has a more toned physique and a shaved beard which is still visible. If you look down, Vidar will have a prosthetic left leg in the shape of an iron boot. He looks at Atreus with a calm expression, and Atreus looks at him and says, "Oh, sorry, I thought you were someone else." Vidar does not respond. Odin looks at Atreus with a concerned look and says, "Someone else? That means you already ran into Vali. I'm sorry to hear that." Atreus tells Odin how Vali attacked him and how he came to avenge his brother, but Odin will insist that he wasn't the one who sent him. He would then explain to him and say, "You see, when your father did what he did, Vali was the one who took it the worst. I tried to explain to him that revenge is not how we move forward, but kids, they think they know everything. Vali was one of my most talented, but he was causing trouble. I had to banish him. But for now, you won't have to worry about that. This is when the books will come for Atreus, and they will continue to walk inside the lodge, and Odin will tell Vidar to get out of here. The rest of the Odin tour will be the same. Through will have the same reaction of meeting Atreus for the first time. You can walk with her around the lodge, but in the rewrite, you will be able to step outside the lodge and explore Asgard, and Through will follow you. Asgard won't be much, it'll just be a village to run around, but there will be some interesting encounters. You can see villagers walking around talking about random things, and Atreus, as he walks with Thrude, will ask her about certain questions. First, he will ask her about Ve, and she will respond saying that's her father's uncle, and they were drinking buddies back in the day. If Atreus asks Thrude about Vali, she would say that she didn't know him very well, and she would quickly change the subject. You can't walk into every building, but there will be one building which the door will be wide open, and if you walk in, you will see people praying and doing some sort of ritual to the gods. An Aesir god will stand among them, guiding them through the ritual. He has short blonde hair, full blonde beard, a simple guard, and a blue cape. He will be holding a spear. This will be Vili. When Atreus steps into the room, they will stop what they're doing and stare at him. Atreus will awkwardly leave, saying that this is the wrong building. Once they leave, Atreus will ask Thrude what that was all about. And Thrude will say, oh, that's Heimdall and Vidar's dad. He governs all prayers made to the gods and gives them blessing. Another encounter will be a farm-like area where you can see Vidar once again tending and feeding some goats. Atreus can try and make conversation with Vidar, but he will just nod his head and continue to feed the goats. Once you leave the area from Vidar, Atreus will ask Thrude, why doesn't Vidar say anything? And Thrude will say that Vidar has been mute all of his life. He was born that way. Atreus will feel a little guilty and apologize because he didn't know. Along a certain street in Asgard, you will hear an Aesir yell, "Death to the God Killer!" You can see a group of Aesir protesting with signs on buildings showing a poorly drawn, marked warrior with white skin. You see a wooden dummy with a red mark coming down its eye as someone takes their sword and chops off his head. The protesters will cheer with swords and pitchforks and say, "He killed the sons of Thor! He murdered Baldur! Justice will come to him!" Atreus will stare at this madness, and Thrude will tell him to ignore it and that they should head back to grandfather. Once you talk to Odin, he will give you Ingrid, and you follow him to his basement. There will still be a tear in space representing all knowledge and truth, but in the rewrite there will be another tear standing right next to Odin's desk. When Odin shows Atreus his other eye, Atreus will ask, "So what is that one for?" pointing at the tear next to his desk. Odin will hesitate to respond and say, "Death. True death, beyond Helheim and Valhalla." Or you can say, "It's a piece of her." Atreus will look down at the mask, and Odin will say, "Now you understand. Fate, Ragnarok, vengeance, they're all distractions. If we gods were to fall, there will be no sanctuary for life to reach. I intend to stop that from happening." They will begin to decipher the language of the mask, but the clue that they find will not take them to Muspelheim, but a place in Asgard instead. Thor will still accompany you on this mission, and Odin will still be a mean father to Thor. Odin will drop them to a place in Asgard so far away that you are barely able to see the wall. They both look and see a large snowy mountain that they will have to approach, for the mask is pointing in that direction. Thor will still have the same energy, telling you to do your damn job. You will walk up to the bottom of the mountain and see a large mineshaft tunnel entrance which is blocked off by rubble. Thor uses his hammer to break through and they enter the tunnel. Atreus will notice that despite the old rubble blocking off the entrance of the mine, the tunnel is brightly lit up by numerous torches. Atreus will say that he thinks someone could still be around, but Thor does not care. The first enemy encounter will be a couple of Grimms, and here I will be introducing some new gameplay mechanics for Atreus. When Atreus entered his new room, Odin left him a wrist guard made of Asgardian steel, which changes his moveset a bit. He will wear this on his left arm, and when an enemy tries to hit you, time L1 to do a deflect where the enemy's attack slides off of his wrist guard, allowing Atreus to instantly stab the opponent with a knife, doing good damage. If you double tap L1 with Atreus, he will use the knife with his left hand to automatically trip lighter opponents, doing lots of stun damage. The trade-off is you cannot block with this wrist guard at all. If you trip an enemy and the stun meter fills up, you can press R3 to automatically stab the enemy on the ground, killing them instantly. Atreus will have more options with his hop mechanic. While circle is a single hop, double tapping it against an enemy will make Atreus kick off of an enemy while in the air, propelling him backwards. If you hold forward while double tapping circle, he will jump up and over the enemy, propelling him upward. Both of the options will put Atreus into a momentarily slow-mo state where you are free to shoot anyone around you. You can also use the grappling hook in the state to pull yourself onto an enemy. The dialogue between Thor and Atreus is pretty much the same. They will see that the torches lead to a high place that they can't reach, which Thor will grab Atreus and jump with him like the original. Once they land, they will see a group of humans walking around. They see that Thor is there and they instantly run away. A few nightmares, White and Wisp, will appear that you will fight, followed by a few nightmare corrupted people. Once that's done, Thor will talk about the blood payment again, then they walk into a narrow hall with a railroad where the rubble blocks the way. Thor takes care of it again. The hall will end in a massively destroyed space, which Atreus will have to platform around in order to get to the other side. Thor will just use his hammer to fly past. Atreus uses his grappling hook to swing onto multiple platforms. And while he's in the air, close to Thor's position, Thor will throw Mjolnir at Atreus, causing him to hang onto the hammer in the middle of the air. Atreus looks down and sees only darkness if he were to let go. Thor will threaten Atreus like the usual, and Atreus will ask for his trust. A nightmare corrupted human will appear behind Thor, and Thor will snap his fingers, sending Mjolnir and Atreus straight to him. You fight a few taser worms, corrupted humans, and projectile humans in this large area of the cave. Atreus will be able to grapple onto and jump off of ledges for verticality. If an enemy is by a ledge, he can also use triangle to grapple onto them. Thor can be seen zipping onto higher levels and doing ground pounds off of ledges. After the enemy encounter is finished, the mask will lead them outside to the other side of the mountain. They look below their level and see a village in the distance. This is when Atreus and Thor will have that thinking dialogue, and Thor will grab Atreus and jump all the way to the village's level. Atreus notices that the mask is lighting up in the village's direction. The village is of wooden architecture, just like Asgard, but it will have a beach and a shore on the other end. The entrance of the village is also made of wood and is decorated with the sea turtle engravings along with ancient letters. Atreus asks Thor if he thinks the villagers could be holding on to it, and Thor replies saying, "Why are you asking me?" They both walk through the seemingly populated village as they all see Thor and start running into their houses. Atreus and Thor follow the mask all the way to what seems to be the village's town hall. Atreus says, "Well, I guess they are," and knocks on the door. A scared voice from behind the door says, "No one's home." You hear multiple voices whispering behind the door. Atreus tries to negotiate, saying that they came as visitors and they're only here to talk. The scared voice responds saying, "Visitors are not welcome at this time, sorry." This annoys Thor and causes him to make thunder strike loud enough for everyone to hear. He begins to speak, allowing his voice to shake the village. "This is the Lord of Thunder, and you have something we need. You have 10 seconds to open that door or I flatten this whole town. 10, 9. Atreus tells Thor to stop what he's doing, asking to let him negotiate with the villagers. He asks for Thor's trust and an opportunity to prove himself. Thor looks at Atreus, turns around, and says, "You have 10 minutes!" He flies away using Mjolnir. Atreus walks back up to the town hall as a small man slowly opens the door. The man lets Atreus inside as Atreus looks around and sees multiple villagers occupying the area. The town hall's interior looks similar to Odin's place with the tables that people sit in, except it has a wooden throne at the end of it. Sitting on the throne is a bald old man with face paint. He has a shaman-like attire and a turtle shell on his back. He asks Atreus to speak, and Atreus says that he is sent by the All-Father to collect something very important, and that he believes is here. Atreus pulls out the broken mask, and the chieftain says, "You have come for the mask." Atreus speaks again. "I'm on a mission to retrieve its parts. If you have it here, I need to get it." The chief gets up and walks up to Atreus. "I'm afraid I can't do that." "What? Look, I don't know what you're thinking, but it's very important that I retrieve it." "I agree. It is very important, which is why I can't let the All-Father have it." "Please, just give it to me. If Thor comes back, he's gonna kill all of you. This mask can't be worth your people." A civilian yells to just give him the mask, but the chief ignores them. The chief continues, "No, it's not worth my people. It is worth all of existence, and I refuse to hand all of life over to that tyrant." A few of the village guards come in from the front door while the villagers run out from the side doors. Atreus will have to fight them off. The village guards will fight with halberds and swords with basic attacks. If you knock back one into the table, it automatically breaks. Once you make quick work of the guards, the chief will grab a small chest and run out from the front door. Atreus will yell at him saying, "Wait, you don't have to do this." Atreus runs outside to see more guards surrounding the village ready to fight. The chief can be seen running into a nearby house, guarded by some enemies. In this section you will be able to grapple onto and jump off of multiple houses. Some of the village guards will be on top of the roofs, throwing projectiles, and others will be on the ground. While fighting, Atreus will yell about how stupid this is and how he's trying to save them. Once you kill all of the guards, Atreus runs to the house that the chief went in. Before he can even knock, you are interrupted by a traveler-like enemy who swings his claymore at Atreus and misses. The enemy's appearance will be of a shirtless strong man with a big sword, and he will be able to be easily stunned like an armorless traveler. Once you kill him, 3 more will come out to fight you, and this is when Mjolnir will arrive and tear through one of them. Thor will call back the hammer and say, "Time's up," and proceed to destroy the whole village with everyone in it, with a combination of thunder and hammer strikes. It only takes a moment for the village to be flattened by the wrath of Thor, and it begins to rain on top of them. You can see numerous men and women on the floor, some intact, others decimated. The chief can be seen badly injured on the floor, but still holding the chest. Thor walks up to him, and the chief will say, "The mask, the secrets, it is not meant for us to understand. The Allfather will not find what he's looking for, only doom." Thor casually drops his hammer onto his head, killing him. Atreus stares at all of the brutality in silence. Thor looks at Atreus and says, "Hey, hurry up with that mask." Atreus snaps out of it and opens the chest and retrieves the part of the mask. He looks at it and turns around, ready to leave. But then, Atreus hears a horse in the distance yelling. He looks a distance away and sees a woman on the horse. It seems to be Gefjun looking upon the now destroyed town. She appears to have a scroll in her hand. Right when Atreus realizes who that is, he will feel the wind of Mjolnir fly past his face and straight to her. The hammer hits her right in the face and she falls off the horse. The horse runs away. Atreus yells, "No! You didn't have to do that! We already had what we came for!" Thor calls back his hammer and says, "No witnesses." Atreus continues, "We only came here for the mask. You only killed her in this village because you felt like it. You don't think for anything else." Thunder cracks and Thor looks at Atreus angrily. "Correct. Because a god does what he pleases, and I will spill whoever's blood I want. That includes you, Jotun. You enter my home, I promise you. Your days are numbered." Thor will turn back around from Atreus, and the ravens surround both of them, and they are transported back to Odin's basement. Odin's reaction is the same, praising Loki and shunning Thor. Their conversation is pretty much unchanged. When Atreus goes to his room, it will be dark and rainy outside. Atreus will sit on his bed and feel overwhelmed by the dumbass decision that he made to step foot into Asgard. But then, he will remember Sindri's advice, to sleep. Atreus will lay down in his bed, and he hears an eerie voice call his name.
Loki.
And that will conclude today's rewrite. I want to give a special shout out to my boy Omar for helping me out with the ideas of certain gods. I know I didn't listen to all of your ideas, but I basically just took some of your ideas and combined them with mine. And stay tuned for the next part. Atreus will be going to Ironwood for the first time.
Oh, bro.
I know.